So today I'm talking about how to stop being codependent and stuck in narcissistic relationships. Because the reality is that if you battle codependency, which is I need you, right? Like there's a dependence on something outside of self. I need you to feel okay in some way, shape, or form inside. Well, that's a magnet to narcissists because they're like, yeah, you need me. And so they gravitate towards each other. And the thing is there's so much information about the narcissist, about breaking free, about going no contact. But if you don't change that template of codependency inside, a magnet's still a magnet. And so you'll wind up attracting another narcissistic relationship, or they'll be attracted to you either way. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than coming out of a horrible toxic relationship only to find yourself in a more covert and destructive one. So the key really is about changing that codependency template. That being said, let's dive in. So for those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a certified trauma-informed recovery coach. I specialize in narcissistic abuse and complex PTSD recovery. I'm also the founder of the accredited training program that teaches survivors to shift into thrivers and coaches. So when it comes to codependency, the first thing that I really want to say or do is honestly, I wish I could reach into the screen and give you a hug if you identify with being codependent. And I say that because former codependent, so I get it. But on top of that, I also know how horrible it is to be looked down on for being codependent. There's such a stigma to it. Have you ever heard people talking about codependence? They're like, oh God, he's so codependent, or she is so codependent. And even their tone is like, I'm here and he or she's codependent, as if they're beneath you. They're looked down on, almost as if it's a personality trait and it's an inferior personality trait. When in fact, most people are codependent not out of choice, but out of trauma. So let's first talk about how we became codependent, because if we don't understand it, we can't undo it. Codependency is born out of a time in your life where you did not feel safe. Okay, so let's go back in childhood. Children are born with an inner felt sense of safety. Have you ever seen a newborn infant, their parents carrying them around and they're on a chair in their car seat and they're just kind of looking around? A child that has not gone through trauma, that baby's not thinking, am I safe? That baby's completely in a felt sense of safety. If that infant is growing up in an environment where they feel safe, which by the way, safe is not synonymous with perfect, like the perfect family, no problems. No, that doesn't exist. So there's challenges, there's difficulties, there's strong emotions, but there's always a nurturing emotional support. Then that child is going to grow up and not be codependent because that parent has co-regulated that child. Every time the child's upset, child can't soothe themselves, the child is scared, the parent then consoles, emotionally supports, and co-regulates. No young child can self-regulate. They need that co-regulation, someone outside of them to help them know that they're okay. That's normal in childhood. However, if you're watching my channel, there's a good chance that you didn't have that rupture and repair, but you had, and we've been talking about this in Thriver School of Transformation this month. We've been talking about how most of us grew up in toxic environments with parents that were narcissistic or parents that were addicts or emotionally unavailable. And we didn't get rupture and then repair. We got rupture, 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 more rupture on top of rupture and rupture. And what is repair? That's what we had. So because we never experienced a parent co-regulating with us, which is how it should have been, because their co-regulation in childhood teaches us how to self-regulate when we become adults. When we don't get that, we grow up without ever learning how to self-regulate. If that's not setting us up for codependency, as it is, on top of that, a lot of us were made to feel as if we had to make that parent happy. If you had a narcissistic parent and they were upset, to gain that sense of safety, a child will be like, mom and dad's mad. I'm laughing and mom and dad is angry. So I'll stop laughing. I will suppress me to make them happy. I will stifle my authenticity in honor of safety, right? And then we wind up in childhood seeing a measure of safety come about. Maybe mom and dad stop yelling at us because we're no longer laughing. Maybe we were just having so much fun and that irritated a narcissistic parent. So we learn I can't be me. And then this becomes a template through which we live life. And to be honest, in adulthood, we may not even have the context as to why we are codependent. To help you to stay safe, the brain does something else. Every time something horrible happens, the brain's like, oh, that's way too much pain for Michele to handle. Let's take that traumatic memory and put it in a place in her brain, close the door between the mind and the emotions so she doesn't have access to it, so that she doesn't feel so much pain. So it's deleting, actually not deleting, it's compartmentalizing and hiding from you or me the traumatic events. And so we think we're fine. We grow up, we're adults now. We don't have all the memories to understand why we're even codependent. It's like decontextualized. And so without that, we are running on a subconscious program that says, I don't feel safe inside because I never learned how to self-regulate. Of course, this isn't how we're thinking. This is our nervous system. This is our subconscious thinking this way. We're just like, what the heck is wrong with me? That's the conscious mind. We'll put that aside. But our nervous system thoughts and our subconscious thoughts would be like, since I never learned it, I don't know how to do it. So I'm going to do what I've been doing because it's kept me alive. And I'm going to go outside of self to appease other people. I'm going to suppress authenticity to make sure that I'm safe. That's what's worked so far. Why rock the boat? And we continue to be in that mindset. And so all of our friends are usually one-sided friendships. We give and give and give, and we don't feel like we get the same back. We don't know why. People don't even feel the need to give to us. When you're giving all the time, you would think, well, why aren't they giving back? The reality is that when you're giving like that, it's coming from a subconscious belief, I don't matter, you matter. And so people pick that up and they're like, you don't matter, I matter. And that's how they show up in the relationship as well. So we have one-sided relationships and we wind up attracting toxic people, narcissistic people. So bottom line, codependency is just your nervous system's way of letting you know, I don't feel safe inside. Now, because you don't know how to self-regulate, if you never received it, you were never able to internalize it, you're continuing to stay in the pattern that possibly a narcissistic parent set up, which is to go outside of self and basically show up as, I need to appease you. I need to stifle my authenticity. I need to help you to feel good and be happy so that I can feel attached to you and therefore I'm safe and I'm accepted and I'm lovable. In childhood, we needed to do that. We needed to go outside of self. And I get sometimes my clients will be like, Michele, but we need to be loved by people. And trust me, that's awesome. Being loved by people is great. I am certainly not against that. As humans, we need connection, right? But if we don't get that on the inside, we show up in that codependent pattern. It doesn't provide us what we're looking for. It doesn't help us feel lovable. If you're in a codependent pattern, no matter how much you give, no matter how hard you try to make someone else happy, you always feel empty sooner or later. So the key is to change that pattern so that you stop being in unhealthy, one-sided and or narcissistic relationships. I'm not going to lie. You can watch this video and I'm hoping it will be super, super helpful. But working through this is not I watched a video and now I'm done and now I'm healed. These are subconscious patterns that you're upgrading. And the subconscious is a habit mind, and it learns through repetition plus emotion. It learns through consistency. And that's where the challenge is on this healing journey. I see a lot of people that have been through narcissistic abuse. They don't see results fast enough. They give up too soon. So remember to have patience. And if you need consistency in a way that's easy and affordable, make sure you check out Thriver School of Transformation, because we meet live on Zoom, and that weekly assistance really helps people to begin shifting. So the $1 million question, right? How do you stop being codependent? It's about starting to learn how to self-regulate. Co-regulation is great, right? Regulating when I'm not feeling well, being around someone that I love or they love me regulates and down regulates my nervous system. But it becomes codependency when, to get that regulation, I suppress my authenticity. So recovery is about, first of all, building the capacity to be authentic. And you might be like, well, what are you talking about, Michele? What do you mean? What I mean by that is, if you had narcissistic parents, authenticity was like the narcissist kryptonite. If you were authentic, they shamed you. They made you feel horrible and they made you feel unsafe. So the very thing we need to overcome codependency is the very thing our own body, our own nervous system, and our subconscious mind tries to stop us from doing, because our body remembers. Our body remembers authenticity brought you a ton of pain, a ton of shame, and a huge lack of safety. We're not going there. It really feels like on this recovery journey, to me, it was like when you're in narcissistic relationships, it's you against the narcissist. When you start breaking enmeshment and kind of separating you from them, and you're on that road to recovery, it then feels like you against you.